What's up guys, welcome to the channel. Today we are going to be doing our 10,000 mile review on our 2024 Toyota Tacoma. This Tacoma actually has 13,000 miles on it, but I didn't want to name the title for reviewing the truck at 13,000 miles. So we're going to be doing that today. We're going to review everything that we've had issues with, everything that is good about it, and how we've enjoyed it so far. So let's begin. So we're going to talk about the number one thing that I see people complaining about the 24 Tacoma the most. So that's going to be in the engine here. So this has a 4-cylinder engine, unlike the 3rd gen Tacoma, which had the 6-cylinder, which everybody loved. But the issue is that that one didn't have enough power to really get the truck going, especially when you start adding 35-inch tires, all the gear, and going up the highway I-70 in Colorado is just a pain. My truck was screaming at 6,000 RPM with 35-inch tires and all my gears in the 3rd gen Tacoma. This one has absolutely no issues at all going up I-70. It was cruising at like 2,500 RPM going 70 up the interstate. So this engine, even though it doesn't sound or doesn't seem as cool, this is a more powerful and efficient engine compared to the 3rd gen Tacoma. And with some modifications like the colder intake, the exhaust that we've done to it, it has been super enjoyable to drive, and the power delivery is amazing. So this is actually a long bed Tacoma, as you can see, and this is our first long bed Tacoma in general, and most of it is going to come from this section here. So if you're looking at either getting a Tacoma or seeing the difference is going to be this section of the bed, really. So this part kind of extends out, and then of course you have a longer wheelbase. Your drive shaft might be longer, your exhaust is going to be a little bit different. So having a 3rd gen or 4th gen Tacoma with a long bed is gonna provide you with more bed space. It doesn't really get you any more cab space, unfortunately, but back here we have more space to bring more gear with us, and I've actually have some accessories built in there that we can take a look at. So back here we have kind of a built-in cabinet system, and this has a sliding door that we can kind of keep stuff. So we're going between a camper setup and an open bed rack setup. So this is great for the camper setup, but obviously we don't have that on right now, but that's kind of how we had it set up before. But this extra long bed space, an extra foot, is a lot more than I thought it would be when we first bought the truck. So having this extra space kind of makes it feel less of a mid-size truck, and having this extra room for more gear is a huge plus. Now let's talk about a couple things that we've done to the Tacoma. So starting in the back, we have an up top Overland bed rack. This bed rack is pretty cool because we actually had this rack on our bronze short bed Tacoma, and it's cool because you can extend it so that way it fits the entire bed length. So you can go from a short bed to a long bed Tacoma and still be able to use it the exact same way with all the same hardware and brackets. And on that we have some max tracks. On the other side we have a shovel and an axe. On top of this we have a pretty long rooftop tent, which would hang over the cab a lot more if we didn't have a long bed. And the one before we had this tent was a FSR, kind of a short version, which didn't overhang the front or the back at all, being that it is a long bed Tacoma. So that's pretty nice having this as a long bed. The other thing that we've done back here are these recovery points. So ARB actually makes one for the Toyota Tacoma from factory. So these are very similar to that. They kind of do two things. One, it provides like a recovery point back here. You can use a soft shackle or a hard D-ring to install in there and either pull yourself out or kind of use it as a recovery point. The other thing that it kind of does is that it prevents you from kind of breaking your rear bumper caps by adding kind of like this short extension point. So if you were to come down on a rock, for example, instead of hitting this, you would just hit this. And this is a lot cheaper to kind of paint versus replacing this with all the sensors and stuff in it. So protection and recovery. So a couple other things we have going on over here. We have 35-inch tires. These are the Toyota MTs, and as you can tell, we've definitely put some miles on these already. And the wheels that we have on these are the RRW RS2 wheels in the limited edition brushed aluminum color. And the lift we have on this is from Peak Suspension. In the rear, we have a 2-inch lift. In the front, we have an 1.25 inch, and that kind of provides us just enough room to clear these 35s. And right on top of the tires, we have the Nytop carbon fiber fender flares. These extend past the factory TRD off-road fender flares by 1 inch, basically matching the TRD Pro and the Trail Hunter fender flares, and that really provides a nice profile with this wheel and tire setup. So that way it's like perfectly flush with it, because without them they kind of stick out just a little bit. And for them, some people, they actually prefer that look because it looks a little bit meaner, it's wider. But in my opinion, making the fender flares match the tires is a really good look to me, because the fenders themselves have a bulge, and then this kind of extends that and makes it, kind of ties everything into together. So next to that, we have the Nytop rock sliders. These are pretty different than anything really on the market, just because they're not tubed, they are fully plated, so that way they're completely sealed pretty much from all the elements. So you really can't rust these out. Obviously, if you landed on a rock and kind of slid on them, but you can always clean that up and paint that again. But on top, we have a flat surface, so that way it's nice and flat. You can use it to step up like that, but underneath they're angled, so it makes it really easy to slide over rocks and everything like that. So the last couple mods that I want to show you guys are going to be some ditch lights right up here using the SDHQ brackets. These brackets are solid because you really don't want your lights to kind of bounce and move around when you're using them. So they kind of beefed up these ditch light brackets to make that from not happening. So on there we have some Baja Designs Squadrons. These are the Squadron Pros with the amber lenses. These are very nice because they're super bright and they're aimed right at the ditch, so that way you can kind of see, you know, animals crossing the highway or anything like that. So that comes in very handy. So the other couple things we've done to this truck is the wrap. So we've wrapped the mirrors and then this section on the roof. This idea was taken from the TRD Pro, just adding a two-tone look, in my opinion, kind of differentiates this truck from kind of all the other 24 Tacomas on the road. That paired with the gloss carbon fiber fender flares really adds a nice touch to it, in my opinion. And then the very last thing I want to talk about is this roof rack. So this is the up top Overland Kilo roof rack, and we've added these grab handles just to make things easier when we load things on the roof or bringing things down from the roof, especially with these sliders. They kind of go hand in hand and really provide you a nice way to get up here. And on top of that, we have the up top Overland 38-inch dual color light bar up here as well, so that way we can kind of shine directly ahead of us and see anything that is up there. So before we get into all the cons that I've personally dealt with the 24 Tacoma, I wanted to talk about this really sweet collaboration that Toyota actually launched with Huckberry. So let's dive into what they have released so far. So currently they are focused on the Tacoma, so Huckberry and Tacoma collaboration, just because they did release this 24 Tacoma recently. But I'm hoping that they do release the 4Runner, the Tundra, and other Toyota vehicles as a collaboration as well, because I just want to wear all of them. So this is kind of what currently is available right now. I'm not sure if they're going to launch more, but this is kind of what we got our hands on. This right here is a rumple blanket, and as you can tell, it has the Heritage yellow, orange, and red color. And inside is the traditional rumple blanket that you would find, but on the back of it is, or on the very bottom of it, has the word taco on it, which is pretty sweet for the Toyota Tacoma. So this is kind of a cool little blanket that is actually warm, and you can actually use it as like a poncho almost. It doesn't have a hood, but you can tie it over your neck and just have it wrapped around you, and just to keep you warm. The next thing I want to show you is something pretty standard in everyday use, but this is cool because it's super light. It has the orange, kind of like the heritage color, and has Tacoma right on there, so you can see and differentiate your keys from which one. But obviously I have my kind of Game Boy color purple key, so I know exactly which one is my Tacoma key. But this is pretty cool because it also has a bottle opener right here, so that way you can use it to open bottles, and it's just a cool little key. So the next thing is kind of hilarious because it's an emergency t-shirt kit. So this is kind of something you can throw in your truck. So if you get, like, for example, road rash ruptures, some taco sauce spillage on your shirt, you can have this in your truck to kind of just switch out of. And just, these are nice because they are nice shirts, and they come in three. There's a white, a gray, and a black, so you can pretty much match anything. So this is the kind of stuff that I kind of enjoy because it's funny, and this is like the perfect stocking stuffer for kind of anybody that loves their Tacoma. And probably my favorite is this shirt here. This is the Huckberry Tacoma collaboration, obviously, but this is my absolute favorite. As you can see, it says taco 3 times on the back, and it's just a very nice quality and heavy, very heavy t-shirt. So you can pretty much wear this all the time, and it just feels good when you're wearing it. Now let's talk about all the complaints that I personally have with the 2024 Toyota Tacoma. So let's go start back here. So in the back seat, we all know the 3rd gen Tacoma didn't have enough, I guess, legroom back here to begin with, but the 4th gen Tacoma, I thought they would have improved it just a little bit, which I guess they technically did because the seat is more upright, so there is a little bit more legroom over here, but it just feels tighter overall. Like, I get that, like, the technical specs have more legroom, but the feel when you get in it is still a little bit cramped, in my opinion. But I do have 2 back seat car seats that go back here for my little girls that go back here, and obviously Tacoma is a mid-sized truck and it's not meant for that, but it would have been nice to see a little bit more improvement in the back seat without having to kind of raise the angle of that, because when you're back here you can't really sit too long before you kind of are uncomfortable just because of how upright you're sitting. But besides that, it's not horrible back here. So my other complaint of the Tacoma are probably these seats here. The pattern, the gray and the lighter gray color is kind of weird. I'm not a big fan of it. And for the price, which this one was around $50,000, I kind of wished you would get the leather or the soft tech seats, so that way it's nice. Because in my 3rd gen Tacoma, I have the leather seats, and that was super nice. One, it was heated, and it was easy to clean, where these ones are just, they're not easy to clean. The light leather or the light gray color kind of shows all the imperfections in the truck. So like if you got a little wet stain on your pants or your pant leg and you get in here and you sit down, or if you're dirty when you get in there, the seats are just going to get dirty extremely fast. Obviously there is the upgrade, the premium package, where you can get the Softex or leather seats with it, but that's an extra $8,000 or so, and I don't know if a mid-size Tacoma should be $58,000 just for seats. And I mean, in general, that's kind of expensive in my opinion for a mid-size truck. My last complaint for the 2024 Toyota Tacoma is probably the towing capacity. Well, not so much the capacity, but being that it is a 4-cylinder turbo engine, towing with this isn't super great. One, it kills the miles per gallon when you're towing with it. And we've only towed a small trailer, like an adventure trailer with it. We haven't even towed anything big, and it just demolishes the miles per gallon when you're using that, and kind of kills the power as well. It's not as badly as the 3rd gen Tacoma as far as like killing the power and the MPGs. I kind of wish that this was a 6-cylinder turbo engine, just like the Tundra, but obviously that's kind of in a perfect world. So we kind of have what we have. We have a 4th gen 4-cylinder Tacoma. It is turbo, so that's a huge plus, but the towing, that's definitely one of my biggest things. So if you do tow with your Tacoma, or if you're looking at getting one, that's kind of be a small issue. So overall, that's kind of all my complaints on the 24 Tacoma. They're very minor things that I don't like about this truck, but really there's not a truck out there that I couldn't pick out some flaws about it. There's not a perfect truck yet. So overall, I absolutely love this truck. There hasn't been any recalls that I've done or have to deal with. There hasn't been any electrical issues. There's been no mechanical issues that I've dealt with. And I've driven this truck from Colorado all the way to Moab, and I've been to California and back, and I haven't had a single issue at all. And I've been off-road multiple times with this as well, and it's been amazing. So I love this truck. So Toyota, you did a great job on kind of the whole redesign and everything on this truck. So I hope that you guys watching feel the same, and I will have a link to the Huckberry and Toyota collaboration if you guys wanted to check that out as well. But if you're not subscribed already to the channel, do so, and we'll see you guys in a later video.